This is the last half of Module 2.2 about banking. We've already learned a few of these. Now we're going to talk about setting up accounts. If you go to a credit union or a bank, the questions you want to ask are about your services. I mean, do you need checks and credit cards and an ATM, all that? What type of account do you want to open or accounts? Do you want personal checking or a business account? Do you need savings accounts? What type of things do you need? You want to ask them these questions. Definitely want to ask them about fees. Is there a minimum balance you have to maintain, or do they charge you a fee if it gets below a minimum balance, say $100 or $200? Is there a monthly fee anyway, no matter what your balance is? And also, when you use ATMs, you know they can charge fees for those, especially if they're ATMs that aren't part of your bank's system. So consider these things when you choose a bank. You definitely want to ask them what's free. Some offer free checking, some will print the checks for you, and even when you run out, they'll send you new ones for free. Hopefully you get free statements, but a lot of banks are asking you to do those online to save paper. And so you want to ask these things, okay? Does online access come for free, or do they charge for that? I can't imagine they would, but definitely worth asking what's free. Very important question is, no matter what type of account you have, you want to ask if it is an interest-bearing account. In other words, will it earn interest, and what is that percentage rate? They're not very high right now for banks offering savings or checking interest to you, but it's still worth asking. And of course, if you were to have an unfortunate mishap and you spent more money, or you wrote a check and you didn't have money in your account, this is what they call a bounced check or insufficient funds. And so you want to know if the bank offers you overdraft protection, because if you bounce a check, you're liable for the amount of the check plus fees, plus you've got to pay some fees for the person who tried to cash it when it bounced. So be careful about that. Overdraft protection is very important. Make sure you ask your bank about it. To open an account doesn't take much. Go to the bank. You need a signature with photo ID. You need a second ID. For a student, a school ID card should do, whether you're going to college or still in high school. You definitely need your social security number, okay, and of course proof of address from a utility bill or something you've received in the mail, or a paycheck that has your address on it. And of course, they will do a signature card here for you, so they know what your signature looks like, and they want to make sure that that is legit, and they don't, have somebody else signing for you when it's not you. Okay, so that's how you open an account. If you want to, you can watch this video in this section of these two girls arguing about what's better, a savings or a checking account. But basically, they're very similar. They're both safe places to put money. Both of them can pay interest. A savings account typically will let you make certificates of deposit. That's a special financial vehicle that has slightly higher interest rates. So if you're not going to touch the money for a while, okay, you're less likely to spend it. From a savings account, you want setting it aside for a long-term goal. This might be a good move, certificates of deposit, or you can put it into a money market. These are safe funds for you to put your money into in most cases, but they do pay a slightly higher interest rate than, say, a checking account. So consider those things, but also you always want to ask about fees. Checking accounts, still a good place for daily use of your money. It doesn't pay as much interest usually, but you can write checks, you can make debit card purchases, you can make withdrawals from the ATM. So if the money's available, you might spend it. Now you need money available, but some people put a lot of money in their savings account and put a little bit of money into a checking account because they don't want all the savings account to be available for them to spend it, because they sometimes do spend it, and that's hard to save. Both of these accounts can have monthly fees, so please ask questions about that. And watch this video with these two girls later in this unit, okay? Let's talk about checks, debit cards, and ATMs. Hopefully you're familiar with checks, and the handwritten check seems to be going away with debit cards and other ways of paying like online. But checks are still very much a part of the financial world, and so it is one option to pay people, whether it's a large sum or a small sum, without carrying money around in your wallet. Now, of course, you want to have money in your wallet, but not too much, right? So with a check, it's safe and secure. Only Verizon Telephone Company can cash this check because that's who it's made out to. All right. Debit cards, same thing, except there's no check writing. If this debit card can be used at ATMs for withdrawals, for deposits, if it's got this Visa logo on it here, then it is accepted for payment anywhere that Visa is accepted. And millions of banks offer this Visa coverage, and so you want to be sure to make that happen on your debit card if you get one. These things are activated by a personal identification number. Most people should be familiar with that by now, but don't write it on the card. Don't even have it in your wallet. I wouldn't even recommend having it in your phone. And don't make it the same PIN. as the one that's used to open up or unlock your phone. Keep it different, memorize it, don't put it anywhere near this debit card. If someone found your wallet, or God forbid, they stole your car and they had your wallet and your phone, then they're going to have access to go and take money out of your account. It does happen at times, but you got to be careful. You can limit that. When you go to the ATM, understand that first of all, this debit card is not a credit card, right? You're only spending money you already have in most cases. Credit cards are when you're actually borrowing money that you don't have and you're buying things on credit, and that can be a very dangerous game. We'll talk about that next module. All right. Notice when you use an ATM, deposit is when you put money into your account. I think we know that, but I want to be clear. And withdrawals when you take money out and put it in your wallet, hopefully. Okay. When you write checks, got to be careful. It's detailed and you got to do it right. So notice these number schemes here. Number one, calendar date is up here. Write it out, know what it is. Banks have that available for you if you can't remember. This is very important. Number two, this is the payee, or the person or the business to whom the check is written. All right. Obviously, dollar amount is going to be in numbers over here, $26.45. But here's what most people don't know until they start writing checks. You've got to write the amount in words as well here on number 4. So this would be written as 26 and 45 hundredths dollars, and then generally you put a line here so nobody else could write more in there. You want to make it very clear. And of course, the number here, $26.45, has got to agree precisely with the written words here. That's a double check and balance, no pun intended, about making sure the dollar amount is exactly what you intended it to be. Obviously, you want to write down what it was for, so you can put down a memo down here. They have a memo line, and of course, you got to sign it or it's no good. In fact, the person who gets the check needs to flip it over and they need to endorse the back, but we'll talk about that. Endorsement means just sign it. So always write these checks in ink and never in pencil. You'd hate to have somebody erase this or move the decimal place and make it worth more money than you wanted it to be. This should catch it, but you never know. People do make mistakes at banks, and so if this said $2,645, if you did it in pencil and someone moved the decimal place and put 2 zeros over here, that could happen, right? So do it in ink, never in pencil. Don't sign blank checks. Anyone could write in anything here. They could write in more than you even have in your bank account, and sometimes they can get that money even if you don't have it there. If you make a mistake on a check, don't scribble it out. Don't get messy. Just write a big old void on it or rip the check up. Make sure you put void in your check register, which we'll cover in just a minute here. Okay, so writing checks is detailed, but you got to get it right. All right. In fact, there's a hands-on banking module based provided by Wells Fargo here, and we recommend you go here. We've put this link in the unit here on Blackboard, so you can go look at that. And when you move this thing around, grab the little red handle, and this red handle zooms around the check, and it will pop up different messages here in this window. It's really cool, so try that. Okay. Once you start writing checks, you are going to have to balance your checkbook. And a lot of people don't do this, but we strongly recommend it. First of all, from the last page or the last period, you would put the new balance right here. Okay, so the ending balance of your last page or the last period is the beginning balance here on this check register. So here's your dollar amounts. Notice that you record expenditures as debits. So this guy bought a book at the campus bookstore for $58.20. Notice it's called a debit and it's minus. Okay, different registers look different, but hopefully you understand the pattern. Minus means he puts it here, he subtracts it from this number above, and now his new balance is $252.20. You see that? 40 cents minus 20 cents gives him 20. $310 minus 58 gave him 252. So now he's got 252 and 20 left to spend. So understand it's this number minus this number gives him the third number, $252.20. Looks like you bought some tickets from John Doe here for a basketball game. He subtracts that, so he put it in the right column. The debit column, I mean the correct column, not the right one here, the left column, the correct one. And so he wants to subtract that and he gets $237.35. And so next thing he knows, he's buying groceries for $39.42. Subtract that and he gets $197.93. And finally, he gets a deposit. Maybe he got a paycheck. And this goes into the credit column. Notice there's a plus there. He adds this to the previous balance and it shoots his balance way up to $357.93. And so he's back in business again. He's got a pretty good cushion there. Even when he buys some lumber here, it looks like he's building some shelves in his college dorm room or something. But he takes out that $46.30 and he goes from about $358 minus 46 down to $312 roughly. I'm rounding. And so at the end of this month or at the end of this register, that ending balance of $311.63 would become the beginning balance of his next month's register. You've got to understand that. Okay, it's kind of like a sports game. The end of the first half score is also the beginning of the second half score. Okay, so there you go. That makes sense, right? The whole purpose of doing this, by the way, is keep track of your money so you don't bounce checks. If you write checks and don't have the money to cover it, fees and penalties can be very expensive. There's a learning module here on Hands-On Banking as well about how to balance your register. So once again, grab this red dot, slide it around, and it'll show you what every element of this check means. So we put that URL. It's also in Blackboard for you. Okay, ATM and debit cards, we think people know how to use these, but you should be smart. Talks about this security code, talks about your signature, talks about the 16-digit cards here. So watch this video as well there. And so that brings to an end our module 2.2 on banking basics, or 2.2.1. We hope you can understand all four of these objectives. We hope that's been good for you, and we wish you happy banking. It's what financially responsible people do. So do it wisely, do it carefully, do it accurately.